It's Monday,
8 p.m.
it's the Monday assessment.
Your people gather round your town when things are on the up or things are falling down. Celebrate the hard times, stay passionate through the lows, find strength in the chaos, no matter which way it goes. It's not easy being blue. Heartbreak comes in many ways, the hardest times, the darkest days, but all these things get washed away with us, with us. The highs might not come every day, but memories do, and memories stay. Enjoy that moment anyway with us, with us, with us. It's not easy being blue. It's not easy being blue.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Monday assessment by the View from the Medway Fancast in partnership with Gillingham Wrestling Supporters Club and sponsored by Snodhurst Used Car Sales and Service Station. I am delighted this evening to be joined by Mr. I Am the Referee Warren, our sponsor himself from Snodhurst, John Primmett, and Mr. Enigma himself, Mr. Stu. So how are we, boys?
Good, thank you.
Only
Yeah, good,
Kris.
thank you.
All right. How was your weekend?
Long.
Is it
Goalless.
marvelous? Yeah, that's a good one. Isn't it? Familiar.
All right, boys, so we will just quickly touch on the Views news this week, and we will go straight in with Warren because Warren is going to host this segment. So there we go, Warren.
Okay, guys, so there's nothing on the caption there, but I do want to just give a mention to Barry and Janet, who went to Gretna Green and eloped. Two Gillingham fans who like watching the Views news. They had a brilliant time, and next year they both said that they might go together. So that was just a little bit of fun. Barry did buy me a couple of beers on Saturday. And I did say I'd give him a mention on the show. So
Fair enough.
keep watching Barry and Janet.
Thank you for watching Barry and Janet.
So we're going to the Views news this week. I mean, I first want to talk about Coleman, John Coleman, and his interactions with supporters, which I think is really important. I think sometimes, although Bonner did these multimedia interviews that nobody could understand or give a toss what he actually said, Coleman's interactions with fans that I've heard on social media and in the factory and blah, 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 I think it's quite important. So, Kris, I'll go to you first because normally you're the person asking the question, so I'll give you a chance to give an answer and tell me what you think.
Oh no, mate, I think it's great. It was last Saturday. I was in the factory at full time, and he was wandering around. I walked past him and I said, "Oh, fair enough." He then come up to my table and was talking to us. He seems to be the only person in the factory that's allowed a glass. And that's the first thing I said to him. I was like, "You've got a glass. We've got these plastic cups." And he was like, "Well, being the manager of a football club's got to have some perks, surely." So yeah, he was having a pint, having a drink with us. I did, and I've said to you guys, I said to him, I thought after Barrow, we've been privy to guff all season, and he took it really well, and I stood corrected, and it just seems like a really nice bloke, really. He didn't go into too much detail. I did try and ask him a few questions about the team, but he didn't really. He kept it professional in that respect. But yeah, no, it's nice because I don't think we ever had that. I don't think we had that under Clements or Harris either. Not just Bonner, like walking around the factory, like talking to fans, interacting with fans. It was just absolutely brilliant.
Excellent. I'll go to you next, John. You're a club sponsor and you put a fair bit of money into the sponsorship of the club as well as the view from the Medway. What's your feelings on John Coleman?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's lovely to be involved with the club. Myself and my brother, we supported the club for years, and under this ownership, we've been able to get involved. We feel comfortable doing that, so it's great. But yeah, with John, it's interesting to see that he wants to sort of engage with the fans. He seems to have quite a good relationship with the fans. Communicating with them, it's a good thing, especially when times are difficult. He's sort of trying to create that tightness with the fans, and I think the fact that we had some real bad atmospheres before John came in, fans openly sort of chanting against the manager, I think that he's come in, he's done that. He's trying to build a relationship with the fans, and I think when times have been difficult, I think that's a good thing. So yeah, fair play to him for doing that, coming into the factory, meeting people, talking to people. You can't knock a fella for that.
Yeah, I agree, John. I think it's an important part of the football club. So I'll go to you, Stu, and I'd like to ask Stu. Stu, with our recent managers in Harris, Bonner, Clements, right, what do you think is different about John Coleman? Now, I know you've been on social media singing the praises of John Coleman, but what difference do you think John Coleman will make to this football club?
I think the first thing is very important is his age. I think he's been in the game a long time, and I think his background means that he can slot in to the type of football club we are. I think he gets it. I think he gets the club. That's the important thing. If you listen to his press conferences, he just speaks in English. That's the first thing. Obviously, what we were suffering before was like, I mentioned it was sort of almost Shakespearean. We're talking about cultures, environments, visions. You don't really get any of that with John. He's pretty straightforward. You can understand clearly what he's talking about and what he's trying to achieve. And the reaction from most of the fans, I know there's an element a little bit against him because we haven't won a game under him, but I think it's been really positive. You can see what he's trying to build. You know, it's clear. But it's never going to be an overnight thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, from my point of view, something needed to drastically change. I think it's not something that was ever going to change overnight. I think we're heading in the right direction. I think the last three performances have said that we haven't rolled over and died, which we had done the previous games.
Yeah.
I like the fact that he interacts with fans. I like the way that he wants to. I get the feeling he really wants the job for next year. With the budget that we've got, with the issues that we can get rid of in the summer, I think he really wants the job next year, and I think he's doing everything that he possibly can to prove to the Gallinsons. I think that he wants the job. I think the only thing that's missing at the moment is a win.
I think the wins, yeah, that's it. And with the win, I mean, what you're finding at the moment, there's quite a lot of what you call fence sitters, whereby fans can't make their minds up, which is fair enough. You know, you can say, well, you know, he hasn't won a game, blah, blah, blah. You know, understandable. But I think if you do see, certainly this week, we've got the 2 home games and we've got a few others coming up, that some of the away games like Newport, Accrington, where we could sort of possibly pick up wins there. I think you'll see a few of those fence sitters jumping down on side. And, yeah, that'll really cause some momentum towards him staying on for next season.
This is a really important week, actually. With them 2 home games, it is important. It's important for John because draws are fine when you look at where we were, and the performances are better, but we do need to get some momentum going. We do need to get some wins. We need to get some points. We need to build some confidence moving forward towards the summer. So,
Kris, what do you think a win would do for the football club and for John Coleman?
I think they will still, like, I'm getting a little bit, I wouldn't say, like, I appreciate everyone has their own opinion, but I'm getting a tiny bit annoyed with the negativity. Like, I did post yesterday, day before. It's all very well and good that we're sitting here now, you know, we're sitting here going, oh yeah, we've had 3 decent performances. No one's saying that they were fantastic performances by any stretch of the imagination, but you could see that the boys are trying again, which they hadn't been before that. And I think a win tomorrow or a win on Saturday it's just a lift for the whole club. It's a lift for the fans. It's a lift for the ownership. It's a lift for the boys. Like, they've tried in the last 3 games and it's not come off for them. So let's just get behind them a little bit instead of, poo-pooing it and changing the goalposts of expectation every game. At the end of the day, we are where we are, right? We're there for a reason. We're there because we haven't been good enough. It's as simple as that. We haven't been good enough by any stretch. So, and we've not been playing well, right, before Barrow and before under Coleman, but then we weren't playing like that under Bonner either. So why don't we just take note a little bit, recollect of what has gone, put a bit of perspective on it, and just be like, well, hang on a minute. The last 3 performances, the boys have actually tried. Yes, it should be a minimum, but it hasn't been a minimum for us, has it? It's been far from a minimum. We've just not been at the races in any shape or form. So a win would be great. I would love us to win tomorrow night against Fleetwood. I'd love us to win on Saturday. Just a win in the next 2 games, I feel that it will just lift the whole place.
Lovely. Cheers, Kris. So we'll move on. Time moves on, and we're looking at where's Wally? I mean, where's Wakeling?
Well, don't ask me that question. I haven't got a clue.
Right. And do you know something? Right. I haven't got as much of a clue. I don't even know his first name. Jacob. Right. So that's how much he's been involved. Now, John, why do you think Wakeling's not made as much of an impact on this squad as maybe some of us first thought?
It's really hard to tell because we've just not seen enough of him, and there's not anything sort of coming out. There's no rumours to say he's had a bad attitude or anything like that. He's not training well. It is like you say, where's Wakeling? It's just a bit of a mystery to everyone, really, because people are talking about it and saying, like, should he be involved? Could he bring something to the team? But he's not there for whatever reason. And maybe next time John comes in the factory, we could ask him and see if we can get an answer.
Yeah. Joe, what's your thoughts on the non-appearance?
Yeah, the only thing you can say is it's got to be that John Coleman just doesn't fancy him. It's got to be, isn't it? Because it'd be easy to find Lord Lucan than find him.
I agree.
It's just one of those. I think John's coming. He's had, he's been around a few weeks now. We had this situation a little bit with Max Clark. We all thought he didn't really fancy him, but now he's got in. They've sort of kissed and made up. But no, it's a weird one, that.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kris?
I think Warren's frozen, isn't he?
He's just seen Wakeling and he's put him into shock. So he's back.
Right, so Kris, I was with you.
All right. Okay, no. Because I heard it like a couple of weeks ago that he was injured, and then there was talk of him going back to Peterborough. Then that didn't happen. I do know that he's out of contract at Peterborough at the end of the season, and they didn't necessarily want him back, which is quite a strange one because I swear their chairman said at the beginning of the season that he scored 20 goals in League Two, which then for me equates to probably 8 or 9 goals in League One, maybe. But that's stats, and I don't really necessarily go with stats.
Ask only Jules, he'll know the answer to that one.
Yeah, only Jules will know that one. But
I don't know how someone's going to score 20 goals in a team that doesn't create 20 chances a season.
Well, this is it. But then you have to also think as well. I think he came in first game of the season. He scored a goal just after half time. I think that was quite good. I think he had a good when him and Wiley played up top together against Port Vale at home. I think he looked quite effective. I think he's quite effective. If he had a bigger man up top with him, I think he'd be quite effective. But it's just, there's nothing about it. There's not even, Wakeling's, this is too soon for him, or this, that, and the other. It's literally, there's been nothing said about him. So I don't know, I don't quite know what that is. And I personally couldn't open a Wally book and find Wakeling at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, I I love a conspiracy theory, mate.
Mm.
And I don't think we ever landed on the moon. But my theory is that if he plays X amount of games, I think Gillingham have got within his contract and his loan agreement. I think Gillingham's going to have to lash out quite a fair bit of money should he play X amount of games. That's my take on it, because I can't see any other reason why he should play. I'm just going to go off piste a bit from the Views news, just a touch. Youngsters, right? I look at what we're like up front, and I see Harry Bridle scoring goals for fun in non-league, and I see Sam Gale come in and be part of the furniture. I see Joe Bodie doing really well. Where do we think our academy's at the moment, Stuart?
Yeah, looks really promising. Obviously, we saw Webby, didn't we, for a bit earlier on in the season? He looked good. We saw Giles, I think, was he at the Swansea game in the Cup? All right, he might have been average, but it does seem that we are ticking a few boxes there. And I think, maybe next season after, we could be benefiting massively from that.
Yeah. Kris?
Yeah, like, I'll reiterate what Stu said, really. Like, Harry Webster, right back. Sam Gale's come in and he's been, nothing short of phenomenal the last few games. I think he's been one of the reasons for our performances picking up, because you can see the heart and the passion that he's got for the club, not only with the way that he plays, but the way that he speaks for such a young man. Harry Bridle? He's out on loan. He's been knocking him in left, right, and centre. But the caveat to that is also he's playing at non-league. Will that then convert when he comes back to the fold, if he comes back into the fold at Gillingham? But
he didn't do too bad in pre-season when we was playing stronger side.
Yeah, didn't he score against Dartford a few times?
Yeah. I just think that sometimes a predatory goal scorer is worth more than a weight in gold compared to someone who's got thousands of stats but doesn't score goals. And we've got someone out there at the moment who is actually knocking the ball in the back of the net. And at the moment, we just don't look like scoring goals. I just think bring him back, give him 10, 15 minutes off the bench, and I actually think that he could actually do something. So, John, what do you think about upturning our youth policy? Do you know of anything that's made it rise up rather than?
I think there's nothing specific that I'd say that I know of personally, but what I will say is they're obviously good signs, because it's not like we've got a tiny squad. We've got a lot of players wrapped around us. So if you've got a couple of young players like Webster and Gale coming in, making an impression in the first team straight away, that says that we are producing good players. It's a lot to be positive about. And as you said, if we can get the striker Brindle, if we can get him back involved in the team some way, again, that's good. Not everyone who scores goals at non-league level will come into the league and do the business, but the signs are good. The signs are good with that lad. And as I say, that could be 3 players potentially this season breaking through, which at this level with a squad this size is good news.
Exactly. So we'll move on to the news of the week, and the dream team of Mark Bonner and Neil Harris have decided to join forces and rejoin Cambridge. Harris being the ex-manager, joining as head coach, and Mark Bonner, the man with a mountainous knowledge of football, going as director of football. Although I wish them well as ex-managers, I don't really care, to be honest. Kris, what's your thoughts?
Right, so obviously I'm a Harris fan. I don't think I've made that any secret of that. I didn't want him to go in the first place. We were 8th in the table when he left. Was it 4 points off a second? I think it was a premature sacking. Bonner, I was a fan of until, well, the Bromley game at home. The fact that the first time I've had to leave a game at half time because the football was that diabolical, I just couldn't watch it anymore. Tells you all you need to know there. I was a fan of his before then, and I was really supporting him. But sometimes you can't defend the indefensible. And yeah, for me. But then you look at it in the respect of, Harris has gone in as manager. Bonner is clearly a very intelligent person. I think maybe the more hands-off position with the science side of things, and do it not being so much involved in the day-to-day. I can get behind that because I can see it, and it kind of then, I suppose, begs the question as to why we didn't then move him into that position instead of sacking him.
Okay. I understand your thoughts, don't agree with them, but I don't think either of them are much good. They didn't produce exciting attacking football. It was quite boring, to be honest, under both managers, along with Clements. So I'll go to you, Stu, as I've mentioned Clements. Right.
How odd.
And the news that Clements is going to join Cambridge as two-lady. Should he accept the offer? So, Stu, what's your thoughts on Mark Bonner and Harris?
Well, it was funny, wasn't it? I was just thinking back to, was it middle of last week, and there was some row going on X, and then all of a sudden this news came out, and everyone sort of down tools and jumped on it because it was a bit of a shock for everyone. Firstly, I've got to say, fair play to Cambridge and Harris. One was it 2-0 against Stockport at the weekend in his first game in charge. You can't argue with that. It's a decent result. And to be fair, I think Harris will scrape a few 1-0s for him. He will do that. He's great at the 1-0. Like you say, dull as ditch water is football, but he'll get him where it might be a bit late to keep him out. Who knows? But he might do all right. But I hate to say it, I had to watch the press conference because I thought, what's this going to be like? Bonner and Harris doing this conference together. So put it on. Oh, so predictable. Poor old Harris, he couldn't get a word in edgeways. Bonner was up and running, firing on all 4 cylinders. All the old buzzwords were coming out that we used to hear every week: is vision, environment, culture, all this sort of stuff. Unbelievable. Really, really. Like you say, when it comes to talk, he should be an MP or something, Bonner, because he's just different class for talking. Unbelievable stuff. But the bit that really made me laugh at the end, he said he's going to write a book on his time at Gillingham. And I thought, well, does he mean a pamphlet? Because it can't be a book, can it?
John, I know that you've been in touch with Mark Bonner, and I know that you knew Mark for the brief period that he was at Gillingham Football Club. What's your take on Bonner going to Cambridge?
I think it's a good fit for him. Cambridge is obviously a club that he had previous success with, and it's his club, like people have a club. And I think Mark's a great guy. He's a pal. And I think the director of football role, I think it would be a really good fit for him. Really pleased for him, actually. And I really hope that works out for him there because he's a good guy. He is a good guy, so I'm really pleased for him. As for Neil, I know a lot of people would have had him back at Gillingham. I certainly wouldn't have said no because I think he could have got results. But good luck to him as well at the end of the day. Neil Harris, he's a proper football man. As a player, and he's one of them people. He's a proper football man, and it'd be nice to see him do well. Just as long as they don't get relegated and play against us, and I hope they lose 5-0. But otherwise, I wish them both well.
Excellent. Right, so that's done for the Views News. I'll hand back over to Kris, and he can talk us through Saturday's exciting 0-0 draw.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. I thought it would be a lot more entertaining and abrasive than that, personally. But thanks again, Warren. So we get onto the Carlisle facts. So Carlisle United were founded in 1904 after previously being called Canongate United from 1896 to 1904. Carlisle United have played at every level of the Football League since its formation, and Carlisle United are currently owned by Tom and Patty Piatak. I think that's how you pronounce it. So we get on to our lineups, and we started with Glenn Morris in goal. We had a back five of Max Clark, Sam Gale, Max Hamer, Andy Smith, and Romeo Hutton. We then had two in front of them of Armani Little and Robbie McKenzie. We then had Dominic Corness in front of them in the 10, and then Joe Bode and Elliot Nevitt up top. So, lads, I will start with you, Stuart. What were your thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah. I wasn't surprised to see Bode come in for Morgan, to be honest with you, because the thing is about Morgan, he's for me, he's come in, obviously, £6 million striker, wherever he's supposed to be, but he's finding it in League Two, innit? That's your problem. He's obviously been playing in the under-14s because he just can't cut it for me at this level. He gets hammered and he's struggling for me. So no surprise there. The idea of this five that John Coleman obviously likes now. Interestingly, Clark, he's kind of making that position his own. We all thought, didn't we, a few weeks back, he didn't fancy Clark. He was almost like John Coleman was going to play anyone there. I think he would have chucked Jimmy Bell in there rather than play Clark. He just didn't like him, did he?
No.
You know what I mean? But to be fair, we'll talk about it later, but Clark has been really good for me. So I think that 5 and that 2 in front of, they're fixed now, really. I don't think that's going to change. It's just those other 3 where Corness is Nevitt and Bode. They're the positions up for grabs, really, now. I think that's pretty settled.
Yeah, and John, I think I will go with what Stu said. I think they are the back 5 are pretty much there, fixed in, as well as Little and McKenzie in front of them. It is just that 3. So, were you disappointed with it on Saturday? Because personally, I would have gone for Hawkins and Morgan up front. I do think that Morgan, I disagree with Stu to a degree. I think Morgan does offer something. He proved that last weekend at home, and he's quite quick as well. So I like the idea of him being with a big man to play off. So yeah, John, what were your thoughts on the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, as we've said, the back 5, 2 in front, that's pretty much set in stone. And I think using that 5 as well, it's taken some of the pressure off of Hutton as well, because he was under it. He'd not been performing very well in the wide position, particularly defensively. He was under a lot of pressure, and I think it's eased some of that off of him, and we're seeing a bit more of him coming forward now because of that. In terms of up front, I'd like to see Hawkins start because he does look a threat when he comes on. I think Nevitt, you've got to feel for him hitting the bar. Another day that would have gone in. He's not scored the goals we expected him to score, and maybe pulling him out the side, sticking Hawkins up there would be a good idea. As for Joe, alongside him, I don't get it. He's a winger. He's not forward. We saw it a couple of times when he got the ball wide and cut in and crossed it. He's a winger. He's not forward. Yeah. So don't start him as a forward. It's not his position. That's just my opinion. Yeah. I probably would have gone with JJ and Hawkins, like yourself, Kris.
Yeah, and Warren?
Yeah, first and foremost, I don't know where you get these figures from for performance things for the caption, but they didn't look anything like the figures I'd have give for Saturday's game, to be honest. Corness, I was a little surprised that he played and Dak didn't come back into the side. Although he had a good game at Walsall, and I didn't see the game at Crewe, so I can't comment. But to me, he's just that little bit lightweight, and what I can't see what he adds. Nevitt, I think our Bodie scored more than Nevitt on there. I do not know, because I thought Nevitt was a far better player on Saturday. He was always in the mix of things, and I think he deserves his place. And I'd like to see Nevitt up front with Hawkins, because you look at some of the runs that Nevitt's made, right? When we have got the ball into those really strong areas, right? Notts County, the goal he scored there, the instant we'll talk about later with a penalty or not penalty. He does make good runs, and I'd like to see him have the responsibility of being the target man taken off him, and ask him to just go out there and do what he does best and score goals.
Yeah. I don't think that's a bad shout actually. Like, I think anyone with that vocal point of Hawkins, because he's such a big man, I think any striker alongside him would possibly work. I'm in agreement with John, and I said this on Saturday. I don't rate Bode as a striker. He didn't do enough for me against Walsall. He didn't do enough for me on Saturday. He was a danger when he did push outside, as John said. But yeah, I can't disagree. I think if you had Hawkins and Nevitt up top, it could work, because then Nevitt could be that free position where he can go rather than trying to lead the line. So yeah, I think that could work.
I mean, Hawkins has got to be as a 2, because you can't
Play him up front.
No, you can't. He can't.
He's so slow. He can't. You know. When he came on Saturday, he looked laboured pretty much straight away. You know.
Yeah, no, you'd have to have him up as a 2, because then he can just do the grunt work, if you like. Just push the players off of him, head the ball down, lay it off, that kind of thing. But I mean, we do usually do the whole, like a whole game overview, but there were quite a few chances in both halves. So we'll start with the first half, and Warren, I'll go with you, mate, and Elliot Nevitt hitting the bar.
Yeah, it was just one chance, wasn't it? It was unfortunate, but did we really look like scoring in that first half? Not from where I was sat. It's getting tedious now, right? That we're not scoring goals. We can talk about the players' attitude, which is, I'm really pleased that it's improved over the last 3 games. I'm pleased that we're fighting for the shirt and whatever. But what quality have we got playing up front? Now, it's great playing this 5 at the back, but if your fullbacks don't constantly drive down those lines, getting balls in the box, right? The 3 don't work. The 2 up front are feeding off scraps because we're just lumping the ball. And the guys, whether it's Corness or Dak or Clark or Williams or whoever you want to pick out of all the number 10s that we've got, where do they get involved? I just don't see the logic in it. And because of the position that we're in, it just seems that Hutton and Clark are playing more as fullbacks rather than wingbacks. And we're getting a little bit isolated in the midfield area. And we're not able to get out quick enough and support the front players from midfield and from wide areas in trying to create chances. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. Yes, the attitude's better, the work rate's better and whatever, but is the quality any better? No. And
I don't, I think some comments over the weekend have quite been misconstrued, maybe, especially from myself, because, people have said to me, oh, yeah, you're jumping on the Coleman bandwagon and he should be managing next season. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is there's been a palpable improvement over the last few games, right? John Coleman is not going to be my manager next season if we go for the rest of the season without a bloody win. And he's also not going to be my manager even if he gets 1 or 2. I think he needs about 5 or 6 in the last, 15, 16 games for me to then be like, oh, okay. But we have to get behind him, Stu, don't we? And what were your thoughts, mate?
100%. Yeah. I mean, we know that John Coleman's the manager till the end of the season. He's not going to get sacked, is he? Let's be realistic. The fan base got a choice. Get behind him or you don't. You stay at home on your fire stick. Whatever you want to do. If you want to be a proper fan, get down there.
Oh, for God's sake, here we go.
Hashtag proper fans. Let's get down there.
I love it, Stu. Love it.
Yeah,
get that one in, didn't they?
All this moaning, all these stats. Just get down there tomorrow night and, start shouting about a bit. I think that there's gonna be a change at some point, either tomorrow or Saturday. We're gonna win, and there's gonna be some egg on some faces. And trust me, I'm gonna be chucking it on there. You know, guarantee.
So we did have what, one or two, I think maybe 3 chances in the first half. Robbie McKenzie's header as well, and then the second half came along. It was a little bit less. It was quite a tepid affair. It was quite even the whole game, to be honest. And then we will just quickly touch on, for us, the biggest controversial decision in the game.
Well, you not going?
Controversial. No, to be fair, on Friday night, I spoke to Dino, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll give you a lift up if you just buy us food on the way up." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm happy to do that." But then the wife had to work, so
that costs you more than the petrol money.
Don't have any childcare, so it's just the 2 of us. But yeah, no. So most controversial decision, I think, was penalty shout. That was clearly a penalty, and for me, like, you either give the penalty and send the keeper off, or you book Nevitt for a dive, which I don't see why he would do that, because he was through on goal. Even if you see the trajectory of the ball, he's still able, even if he stood on his feet, to then run after that ball and slot it in the net. So for the life of me, I don't see how and why he would dive.
Doesn't make any sense at all, does it?
No, for me, the referee's bottled it. Because he's like, oh, okay, well, all I'll have to do, if I don't give the penalty, I can just ignore the dive, right? That wasn't a dive, right? And then I can just be like, oh, okay, I'll let the game play on. If he gives the penalty, he's then got to send the keeper off as well for me. Mm-hmm. So, Warren, what were your thoughts on it?
We was talking before we started the show about me being an ex-referee. I actually think that this referee should never, ever referee an English Football League game ever again, right? Just based on that one decision, let alone half a dozen other decisions that he didn't make. I thought he was well out of his depth. It was a definite penalty. You can play from both angles, from the angle that I was sat at, which was opposite to the camera angle that German Gilles had put up, right? And it was 2 totally different angles. And it's a penalty all day long from both angles. I can't see anything there for Nevitt to go down what he could gain by going down at that point. Right? I'm not saying that. I mean, from one angle, from the main stand angle, it doesn't look like he's really clattered. We just caught him. Whereas from the angle where the Gillingham fans were sat, there was it looked like he got clattered, right? And the referee and linesman between them never gave it. Just shows to me the standard of refereeing in the English Football League at the moment. Everyone's scared to give a decision. Everyone's scared that their promotion won't be gained if they don't do everything by the book. They're all scared of the assessor's report at the end. They're scared of the managers at the end of the game going in and being controversial and screaming and shouting at them. I'm sorry. It was poor. Yeah. It was poor, and it's been poor, and it keeps continuing to be poor. And unless the referees in this country improve, right, and actually referee the games properly, I'm sorry, football in this country is just going to keep going on a downward trajectory. It's bad enough with the players passing 4,000 passes and not getting out of their 18-yard box, let alone referees not actually giving decisions. I mean, it's just a joke. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it is. And do you know what? Like, someone said to me earlier, oh, yeah, but maybe it wasn't a penalty because he got the ball first. I'm sorry, but if you're coming steaming out of your area to the edge of the 18-yard box, the way that keeper did, I don't care if you're getting the ball or not, right? You're coming out with intent, right? You don't come out steaming out that way. I mean, any goalkeeper can prove me wrong, but you don't come to the edge of your 18-yard box speeding out like that, take someone out, and then it not be a penalty even if you did touch the ball, because That's not a normal. It's like the whole thing with handball. Was the arm in a normal position? Right? Running out to the edge of your 18-yard box is not a normal position for a goalkeeper. So for me, yeah, I'm sorry, it's just baffling. So
Kris,
yeah, John, I'll get your
Kris,
thoughts on it.
if Glenn Morris had stayed on his line and not done what you've just said, would you be happy?
No.
Well, the
Well,
argument
then
you just
Glenn
put
Morris
out,
didn't make a stupid tackle, did he?
yeah, but the way the keeper came out there, he had to do one thing or another. He either had to get the ball or bring the player down.
Yeah.
Right? There was no ifs or buts about it. I'd want my keeper to be doing that.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
The fact that he caught the player is by the by. Right? But I want my keeper out of the box. That wasn't an unnatural position. He just was late and he caught it and it was a penalty. End of story.
It was unnatural in the way that he came out. He didn't come out. He slid out with his legs first, if I recall rightly. He didn't come out hands first to go for the ball. It was like sliding with his legs first to try and get the ball. Right, that's the unnatural position for me. Right, if you're a goalkeeper, these things are your number one asset. You lead with those things. You don't lead with your legs.
Yeah, but you was at the edge of the box. I mean, he didn't know whether he was going to get there before.
That's on him.
Got into the penalty area or whatever.
Yeah, I'm sort of with worried on that because I played in goal myself. And when you're coming out like that, if it's right on the edge of the box, sometimes you would lead with your feet to avoid conceding a handball or something like that. So I can see both sides of that one.
Yes, Stu?
It's cast iron. And at the end of the day, the referee just bottled it. Simple as that. He was worried about his tea and biscuits afterwards, I think.
Honestly, it's a really, really poor decision. I saw a couple of people trying to justify it, saying, it was minimal contact. It doesn't matter. If you come flying out at that speed, it only takes minimal contact. When a player's coming towards you at that speed, it only needs to be a light touch to send them flying. So the amount of contact is irrelevant. It's a stonewall penalty and the keeper gets sent off. But going back to Warren again, what he said about officials, they have been so poor this season. So much has not gone our way. We have been hard done by, and I'm not whinging because it's us. We have been hard done by. But you watch these games now and you're like, well, what's the point of the linesman? They never advise the referee on anything. You never see a linesman now say to the ref, "Oi, ref, I think you got that wrong." You never see it. Never. And it's crap. It really is crap to see some of this from officials. We've seen players 3 yards offside at Priestfield and it not get given. You're looking at it in front of you. The linesman is stood in front of you. That player's 3 yards offside and the linesman's not giving it. The standard is really, really poor and it makes you worry about the game. I mean, are we going to get to the point where we've got to have an official behind each goal as well to get people to do the job properly? It's terrible. It really is.
The only upside of the penalty not being given is the fact that we didn't have to watch Nevitt blast over the bar against Bromley.
Oh, no. I don't. Yeah, to be honest, I don't think Nevitt would have taken it had it been a penalty, to be quite honest. But
who would have taken it?
I'd have given it to Little personally. There you go. You're the captain.
I'd have given it to Shannon.
Our friend Paul Fisher has commented saying it was a penalty that they are given nowadays for keeper mistiming the challenge. Plus, he should have been sent off. Standard of refereeing is terrible in League Two. So I just want to quickly, whilst we're on the subject, talking about referees, do you feel, because this is something that I've come up with in my head, do you feel that because in the higher leagues, like the Premier League or Championship, I don't know if the Championship have it because I don't really watch much Championship football, but do you think the VAR is affecting as like a filter down to League Two because referees at that level are now overly reliant on VAR, that when it comes to training referees at lower levels, they don't actually know how to referee like referees should, Warren?
In my opinion, the only technology that could be used in the higher league or in the higher levels of football is goal line technology. VAR is a complete waste of time. It's been an expensive experiment. It hasn't worked. It doesn't work in the Medway area Sunday League Division 6. So why should they not have it and play by different rules to what the Premier do? It's one game. It's one game of football, and the rules should be the same, whether it be at the highest level or the lowest level, right? The rules of the game or the laws of the game should be the same for every single player. At the moment, we're trying to get referees to referee 25,000 different ways each week, right? And I think the problem with referees now is they're too reliant on assessors. They're too reliant on being bumped up the list. They're too reliant on trying to be stars of the show. I can remember going into a referee's room the first time I did a line to a referee in a big game, and he said, "Just give offsides and throw-ins, right? I don't want to know about any other free kicks or any other infringements or anyone else, right?" And I'm thinking, but you're 40 yards away because you ain't got out of centre circle all game.
Yeah.
Right. And I looked at it and I just changed my refereeing approach, that even if I had club linesmen and not full-time linesmen, I always said that unless if it's a foul, you see a proper foul, give it, and I'll either blow or I might see it differently and I'll allow play on. But if you see something, just put your flag up. Okay? And I could tell from the first 10 minutes whether a club linesman was either biased towards his own team or whether he just wanted to be part of the game, which was great. And I just see referees now and they just want to be the star of the show. And I mean, how many times do you see referees pointing before the linesman flags which way a throw in is?
Yeah.
Right? All this business of waiting 20 minutes before putting a flag up for offside, what is the point of that? Either a player's offside or he ain't. Put the flag up, right? Give the offside, get on with the game. It just astounds me that referees now cannot be allowed to referee, because it seems like managers are refereeing the game, assessors are refereeing the game, television's refereeing the game, and the person in the middle is so scared of making a mistake, right, and maybe get something wrong that he may get talked about as being crap, that he doesn't referee like he would do in the Medway area Division 6 game on a Sunday. And that's wrong, because you should be refereeing exactly the same way.
Yeah. No, and I think there was a situation last week where I think it was Newport and Bradford where Sarcevic was miles onside, but because the linesman hadn't kept up with the game, he's put his flag up. You could see Sarcevic is well onside against Newport, and it's just incredible, like the level of refereeing. Like it's up and down the board. And do you know what? We talk about this every couple of weeks, and we go into detail about this every couple of weeks, but we shouldn't have to. Like, it shouldn't be something that we need to keep talking about.
No,
like, it's absolutely awful, John, isn't it?
Spoils the game.
So, yeah, Stu?
Right, yeah, I've woken up now. Yeah, no, I'm with Warren. I absolutely hate VAR for a start. I'm all for goal line technology across the board, really. I think that's the main one. But with VAR, you can't be celebrating goals and, oh no, we better not. We'll half celebrate it. Wait for someone to flash up on the telly so we can celebrate it again. It's just total nonsense. It's totally anti the game, what the game's all about. You know.
Yeah.
I don't watch really Premier League stuff, to be honest. I don't really. God no. I mean, I'll see on you see on X from Gilles fans. Oh, West Ham are doing this, Tottenham are doing that, and Haaland's done this, that. I don't really take a lot of notice of it, to be honest with you. Irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't really give a toss about that kind of thing. So we will quickly move on to our man of the matches, and I've gone for Andy Smith. Warren's gone for Robbie McKenzie, John's gone for Glenn Morris, and Stu's gone for Max Clark. So we'll start with you, John, and your reasons as to why.
We're not scoring at the moment, so any points we get are valuable. I think Glenn made a couple of decent saves that you'd call regulation saves that he should make, but he made them. But he also made an absolute worldie of a save again. He consistently shows that if you're fit enough and informed, you're young enough. And the other thing I like with Glenn as a keeper is he's very intelligent. When he makes a save where he has to parry it, he always pushes it somewhere safe. He doesn't put it back into danger. It always goes wide. Very, very clever as a keeper. And I think that save alone, when we're not scoring goals, his overall distribution's intelligent. He's always trying to look to do something positive with the ball. And yeah, the fact that he just doesn't make mistakes. When he does parry the ball, he puts it safe. That's good enough for me to be man of the match. He deserves it. And yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, and Stu, your reason for Max?
Yeah, Max, he's been really, really good lately. And I think, on top of the fact that he had a great game on Saturday, his passing, absolutely superb. He was getting balls in the box, didn't put a foot wrong. He really was 100% for me. And I mentioned earlier, obviously at the start, we all thought Coleman didn't really fancy him because didn't want to play him. He was putting Ogie in there, and he was, like I said, the tea lady could have gone in there really. But now he's back. Now he's back in. We're kind of seeing what we saw at the start with him. Really, we kind of got him back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think so. I think he was brilliant as well. The same as with Glenn. I think Glenn was brilliant. Max was. He just seems like a new player now. He's had them few weeks out, and he's a new player. So Warren, why Robbie?
In a game where offensively we weren't very good, I thought Robbie tried to push the team forward and was involved in anything that was good about us going forward. He kept trying. He worked his socks off for 90 minutes. Was he as outstanding as Glenn with his save? Was he as good as Max? Was he as strong as Andy Smith? I don't know. But for me, Robbie seemed to be at the part of everything good that we did about the game, or we was about the game on Saturday. I think he was unlucky with his header. But no, I thought Robbie was the heartbeat of the team. And it should have been Little, but it was McKenzie from midfield for me.
Yeah, so I can't disagree with either of your choices because I think if we were to choose, it would have been any one of these four. I mean, Glenn with his saves, Max playing brilliantly. Robbie just seems to be like that engine that we need in the middle at the moment. And I think if we keep him in the summer, then I think he should be at least vice captain of this football team. Andy Smith for me was purely because, the last 3 games since he's come in, I don't think it's a coincidence that we've looked a lot more solid at the back. It's also not a coincidence that, on Saturday, I don't know if any of you noticed in the first half, like we'd have an attack and he'd just randomly pop up. And you're like, what the bloody hell is he doing up top? He was solid. I don't think he put a foot wrong in this game or the last 2 or the 2 previous games before that. But it's just nice to have a centre back that, and I'm not taking anything away from Sam. And to be fair, Max could be in this conversation as well because all 3 of them in the last couple of games have been to a man. They've been brilliant. But yeah, I went for Andy this week because he was just solid and everywhere really. So we will move on to our quick look ahead to tomorrow night. And we have got Fleetwood at home, 7:45. So we've lost, drawn, and they've won, drawn, lost. So I'll come to you with this one, John, and your thoughts on tomorrow night.
I do think we'll get that win tomorrow. I can see it happening. our last home game, obviously, we really gave everything to try and score. And I don't like to point at luck, but we've had absolutely no luck in front of goal. Every time that ball bounces around in the box, ricochets, it never goes our way. We're overdue a goal. I don't care if it's a 1-0 scuffing off of someone's arse. It's got to happen sooner or later. But, yeah, I'm confident we can get the win tomorrow. I think the crowd will be in good voice. They backed us well. Obviously, the last home game right to the end, the atmosphere was good. And I think if we get behind the team, if we create a good atmosphere at home, I think we'll get that win tomorrow. I really do.
Yeah, Stu?
Yeah, very confident. I like to attack the Rainer men second half. I know people say it doesn't really matter, but I think it certainly did in the Crew game. It could be a bit tight first half, but the important thing is we get up and running early, get amongst them, set our stall out, get the ball forward quickly. I don't want any of these stat favourites like 20% completed passes, but they're all going backwards and sideways. Got to get away from that, really. Just get the ball forward quickly, get really into it, and then maybe try and get a goal first half and then finish them off second half. So 2-0 I fancy tomorrow.
Yeah, Warren.
Here comes the voice of gloom and doom.
We're going to lose 5-1.
Fleetwood at home is a bit of a bogey team, right?
What about women being 5-1?
Yeah, we won once, Stu. You should remember our game in 1903, but
but 5-1 is a mullering, isn't it?
Yeah, we won once. We don't beat Fleetwood very often. I look at bogey teams and whatever. I can't see us conceding. It's dependent whether we score.
Yeah, I think it is as well, to be fair. It hasn't exactly been our forte of late, has it? Scoring goals. So, like John said, I think if it comes off someone's arse, gives us that one, then maybe it gives us belief to go further and score another. But who knows?
I think, to be fair, that's where probably an area where John was a little bit naive in the window. Yeah. From what I'm told, John was happy with what we had up front. And I don't think it's enough.
No, I don't either, to be fair. And, like Ollie's out of contract in the summer. He's probably going to leave, which then leaves us with a big man situation, because I don't think Josh Andrews, I don't think we're going to ever see him play more than 2 games for us in a row.
Joshua.
Which then leads us on nicely to my favourite subject, recruitment.
Yeah. So, hold on a minute. How do I turn this off?
So, Stu, I'll start with you on this one, mate. What do you think needs to happen in the summer?
Yeah, wholesale changes, really. I think it's obviously the most important part of this conversation is where we are with the manager, because that's where it all starts, really. Yeah. And, for me, hopefully John Coleman can do enough to make sure he stays, because I don't really think anyone's got an appetite for a 5th manager in such a short period of time, really. So we're kind of hoping that John can do enough to convince the powers to be to give him next season. And obviously that's the starting point, because the players are going to know where they are. He's going to know from the time that he's here now who he wants to keep. Obviously, we know there's a lot of players out of contract. But I think if John does, whoever comes in, if John stays on or is someone new, the recruitment must start with the manager for me, not the other way around. I don't like this idea of someone saying, look, we found you 5 players who you fancy. I'd rather the manager says, look, these are the 5 players I like the look of. You go and do your work.
Yeah.
We need to flip it on his head, really. A bit like the old days when, Tony Pulis would go and watch a game at Grimsby, or he'd be there on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, he'd be up somewhere else watching a game. He'd be finding his own players.
Yeah.
What's changed so much? Don't understand that.
I think me and you touched on this right at the beginning of the season when we first started doing these shows, Stu.
Yeah,
and we
did.
said, like, if a manager's going to fall on his sword, on a sword, at least let it be his own. And
Yeah,
I think
100%. Because I can't believe that John Coleman doesn't know people in the game. He's been managing for 25 plus years. He must know enough people in the game to be able to say, "Look, I fancy this player," or "Have you got anyone for me?" or who's up and coming. He's got those contacts, so it's down to that person to say, "Look, I want X, Y, and Z. Let's put it together." I just don't like the concept. It kind of works if you're probably a bigger club or in the Premier League or whatever, but not League Two. It's nonsense for me, really.
Yeah, and John, your thoughts on the summer? Obviously, we've got a lot of players out of contract. 10, I believe, 10, 14, something like that. So what do you think is needed in the summer?
First thing with recruitment and managers. First thing, what's wrong with a manager being a manager? I'm old school. A football manager is a football manager. This head coach who then has people above him, I'm not a fan of that model. Never have been. Let a manager pick the players he wants. I know there have to be people who make decisions, who pull the strings finance-wise and stuff like that. But there's a difference between a manager and a head coach. So let's see where we go with that. Personally, it's great that there's so many players out of contract because that allows freedom of the budget, which is obviously good news, and it enables him to decide who he wants to let go, who he wants to keep. In terms of recruitment, the first thing we need to do is, if Andy Smith is available, is sign him.
He's out of contract to get a
hold. Yeah, he's out of contract.
No, actually, let's not tell anyone else that, right? So if we've got fans of other clubs, Andy's not out of contract.
Yeah, right? Don't tell anyone that. But we need to sign him. That needs to be a massive priority. So, but I think to achieve that, we need to get some momentum going forward and look like next season could be positive. And as previously mentioned, John Coleman's been around the game a long time. He's got to have contacts. He's got to have contacts who can make deals happen. He's always been involved at this level as well. And if we want to get out at this level, he has done it before. He's got teams promoted before. He knows what it takes to get promoted out of this division. So,
100%. Yeah. I mean, what people don't, seem to want to lose sight of, if you like, is the fact that John Coleman got Accrington Stanley promoted. His budget was, 3 shillings and sixpence. Yeah.
And I think he will have a good budget next season. I mean, obviously, Brad and Joe Comper have touched on that we're freeing up budget at the end of this season. And I think whoever is the manager, if that is John, will be well funded. So let's do it wisely. Let's let whoever is managing that team, let them build their own squad over the summer. Let them work with them players, and let's start on a sound basis for the first game next season.
Yeah, no, definitely. And Warren, your thoughts on what needs to change in the summer?
We've got an hour, right? Okay, so Brad and Shannon at the top, right? There's been no thing that when Brad and Shannon are in this country, this club is better for it, right? Either, both together or whatever. And I understand that they've got businesses abroad, but I think we need to see more Brad and Shannon in and around the football club on a daily basis. We then go to perhaps the possibility of bringing Paul Fisher back to take over control of the football side, a bit more professional in the sport, and maybe he can come in and be a mentor to Joe Comper so that Joe can then take over the role in his own way. But at the moment, Joe is brilliant at the commercial side. He's brilliant at interacting with supporters. He's brilliant at what he does. If he's going to take on this new role within the football side, I think he needs a bit of a mentor, and I think Paul Fisher would do well to come into that. We need to get rid of Hess and Tyler. I love Hess as a player. He's a legend and whatever. But for 3 years, his recruitment hasn't been awe-inspiring, has it? No. I mean, let's be honest. What your player is brought into the club, it's not exactly great. We need to, as Stuart and both John alluded to, we need to reorganise our scouting network. It's rubbish, right? It's not worked. We need to start again. We need to appoint a manager who wants to run his own recruitment side with people that he trusts properly, so that we're getting around the country or out of this country or into Ireland, Scotland, wherever. But we need to reorganise our recruitment policy with regards to players, because it's not working and it hasn't worked for 3 years. So we need to change.
No.
We then look at the players that we've got. We could probably, between all four of us, come up with at least 10 names. And then you'd probably have 4 or 5 names that we'd bandy about and maybe agree or disagree on. But we know that with what's happened this season, this squad's got to be torn apart. I still don't know what happened after Barrow and Barrow away, the Barrow home game, Barrow away game. Because after the Barrow away game, we've started to show a bit of heart again. I'd really love to know what's gone on. Something's gone on. And I'd really like the football club to tell us at the end of the season. I know they can't tell us now, and I appreciate that, but something has gone on for there to be this chalk and cheese out there. I think we should appoint John Coleman now, given the opportunity to start looking for players for next year, building a squad, but also continuing what he's doing with his team at this moment in time. I can see improvement. We are getting better, but at the end of the day, the majority of these players has been forced upon him, and he's doing the best job that he can with what he's got. So let's give him the job. Let's move forward. We just seem to be reacting every season, every pre-season. Let's get it in place now. Let's get sorted for next season. We've got John at the helm until the end of the season. It's just thankful that there's 3 clubs at the bottom that are far worse than what we are, and I don't think we'll get relegated. This week could be quite telling. If we lose both games at home this week, then I think we're banging desperate trouble. If we win the 2 games this week, then we're safe as houses. I would just like to see John and Jimmy. They've seen what we've got here compared to what they've had at Accrington. They've seen what the budget's like. They've seen what the crowd's like and what could be like. And I think they like what they say. And I think they're both prepared to put everything they've got into it. So unless we make wholesale changes and we start thinking about where we are as a football club and what we're going to do, and are we going to start doing things properly, and we have a complete reset during the summer, just bumbling on the way we are ain't going to cut no mustard.
No.
And I'm sorry for the rant.
No, it's all right. No, it's not a rant, mate. It's just it's an opinion, isn't it? But I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from with regards to giving it to John and Jimmy on a permanent basis, but I think it's premature until we start seeing victories and W's on that sheet rather than draws or losses. I'm fully behind him, and I will be until the end of the season. Right, so I've literally laid my marker down there, but I can't commit to agreeing with him being our full-time manager unless we start winning games. I don't think that anyone really can that's of a sound mind. Warren.
Yeah, but we're not of a sound mind, Kris. That's why we're on your show.
Yeah. That's it. But with regards to recruitment, I think we need to rip up the script. We need to, apart from Robbie and Glenn, I think that every other player that's out of contract in the summer needs to go. We then need to look at a different process within our recruitment. I mean, the most poignant thing of the Q&A with me was Brad saying that the players we signed in that 1st January still take up 70% of our expenditure. So if John can start winning games and we do keep him in that respect, then yes, fine. If he doesn't, then we need, and I still think even if he stays, we need to get rid of Hess. I think we need to get a proper recruitment team in that actually know what they're doing. No disrespect to Hess, he's a club legend, but it just doesn't work. It's okay for Joe to dot the I's and cross the T's, but when it actually comes to the scouting, comes to the actual analysis, I don't think the data works that great, especially at this level. And as me and Stuart said before, it's okay if a player scores 19 goals for Crewe last season, but what did he do before that at Preston? He did absolutely nothing. What did Jack Nolan do before last season at Accrington? Absolutely nothing. So yeah, we just need to have a look at that and actually get an identity, because that was the most worrying take for me. Was we've not really got an identity, and when you're like, you've been with the club 2.5 years and you've not worked out an identity. That for me was the most worrying part. So yeah, sorry about my rant.
We need to be Gillingham again. We need to be a team that people don't want to play. That needs to be. People don't want to play us. They don't want to come to Priestfield. Priestfield should be a fortress. Teams should be shitting themselves about coming to play us.
Yeah.
And that's what we should be again. We should be a team that you have to beat.
Yeah.
Great
job. You have to do everything to beat. And that's what we should be.
Yeah. Yeah. So, boys, obviously we are in partnership with the Supporters Club, as this has been on the screen for a while. So if you do want to take part in the filming and relive your Gillingham memories, then Friday afternoon, the 28th of February at Priestfield. And if you want to contact the guys, then the email address is there and the phone number's there as well. As you all know, Amu does our intro music these days. He's also now just started his own band called Nashville Exile. So 3 gifted musicians and performers. They've teamed up to create Nashville Exiles. So they're a little bit country Americana type thing. So all the information that you will need for them guys is on the screen. Amu was going to try and find me a 30-second clip because it's actually quite a good song, their first one. So that's that. We will move on to Mr. John, and you can tell us all about your company tonight, mate.
Yeah, so we're family-owned, family-run business. We've been in the motor trade since the 1950s. We sell cars, we repair cars. We're Medway Council Fair Trader approved. We just been doing it a long time. It's what we love to do, and the thing, we try and treat customers how we'd like to be treated ourselves. So if someone's looking for a car or their car needs repairing, feel free to hit up the website, send me a message. You'll know where I am on social through X or anything like that. So yeah, just like happy to be partnered up with Kris, The View from the Medway. I think this is a fantastic podcast, and that's why we got on board with it. And yeah, proud to be on board with the club as well. So thank you for sharing that, Kris. Appreciate it.
No, mate. Honestly, pleasure's all mine. So with regards to us, obviously, if you want to follow us on X, we're The View from the Medway Fancast or at TVFTM. Facebook group is The View from the Medway, and the YouTube channel is The View from the Medway Fancast. So I've been Kris. He's been Warren. He's been John. He's been Stu. Good night, and up the Jills.